Welcome to Chicks and Salsa. This is our first episode with our new logo for this show on there. You've seen some combination of us for about a month and a half now, but this is the actual all of us together with our logo. Hopefully, we get an intro soon, but welcome to our show. Hope everybody's having a great week. How is y'all's week going, ladies?
Pretty good. How about yours?
It's going well. I had vacation last week, and that was really awesome. So it was kind of hard to go back this morning.
That's always
going back after having time off really is not my favorite. I just need to find some place to pay me, and then I would work when I felt like it was necessary. I haven't found that yet.
Right.
And I'm just hoping and praying that Tropical Storm Nicole doesn't do too much damage for the east coast of Florida, because we are in the south part of I live further in the south part of the cone, but I work a little bit further north, which is a little bit closer to in the cone. So just hoping and praying that everybody is safe and so from the storm and takes precautions that they need to.
Absolutely.
Yes, you be safe, Andy. Tell Scott that he is not allowed to have any hurricane parties this weekend.
Okay.
And no keg stands.
Cartwheels?
He can do cartwheels, that's fine.
Okay.
That's funny. All right, well, let's dive into our topics. It's been kind of a crazy world in the NFL. We've had a couple of things go on, and one of the main things that's happened is the Colts let go of their head coach, and they hired Jeff Saturday, who was, as you know, he was the center for the Colts. He's an ESPN analyst, six-time Pro Bowler, definitely has probably an excellent football mind. This hire, though, just kind of had me scratching my head thinking random. I felt like that they probably could have promoted within their coaching staff that they had right then. If you're looking to just fill a void until the end of the season, because I don't think Jeff Saturday is going to be the guy for you to carry you for the next decade or so. I don't think that was their intention with this. Now, I do understand he's a fan favorite, and so that probably felt good within your fans, maybe to rally that up, and maybe that's what they were thinking over there. But to me, I just kind of was scratching my head. I felt like their defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, who had head coaching experience, he has 2 decades within the NFL. I felt like if there was somebody that could be an interim and get you through to the end of the season until you figure out exactly what you're going to do, that way you're not paying somebody a ton of money out of pocket from what you've already paid, and then just get you through to the season, and then you can have another contract with whoever you plan to keep as your coach for the next decade or so. So to me, it was definitely a couple of questions out there, why they went that direction. Your thoughts, Carrie?
So you are not alone. That was a common theme stated on ESPN today. Jeff happens to be one of my favorite analysts that comes on because he's usually the voice of reason. He's one that can balance out the big voices, the big egos, however you want to say that, and he can come in with a voice of calm. That being said, being a fan favorite, being someone that you can visually see him being a voice of calm. His football acuity is beyond anything that he's just very intelligent in that aspect. And the fact that he's been watching and analyzing all these teams for so long, I think that brings in an interesting level of coaching or leadership. Let's go leadership there. I realize he has not had any professional coaching. He's done high school only. But at the same time, I kind of look at this as, the statement was, should have promoted within, and he doesn't know the team, which is probably very true. he probably has the respect.
Because, like, date of hire to your game. Like, this is somebody that has to go in. Like, yeah, he's been a special consultant for the team, obviously, but he has not been in that locker room with those players, with the rest of the staff like that. Like, you have 6 days to prepare for that, and to me, that just seems like an impossible task. Like, just almost a setup for failure.
So
Right.
I actually feel like he probably has been in the locker room. We may not know it, but I feel like that's probably something like Luke still does stuff in our locker room. Steve Smith, I mean, obviously that's more widely known, but I kind of think a former quarterback of ours still does too, but I have nothing to back that up on.
I look at that. This is a way of, if we always promoted from within, there's no chance for growth, right?
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Women would never be promoted within because we would never be in the locker room to begin with. And so it proves that sometimes you have to shop outside to rebuild from the inside. And maybe they're looking at him as a short-term Band-Aid fix to bring back the fan base, to have that buy-in from those that love Saturday and respect him, so they can then build again further. I've been in that spot. I've been the one person brought in from outside to a new group, and it's awkward as heck. I've also been the one that's been overlooked because I'm the inside and they wanted to bring someone from the outside in. So I see it as an opportunity for growth for everyone.
So
I definitely think there's positives. Go ahead.
I have a problem with it, and I'll be honest with you. Here's part of my problem. You, as the team owner, came out and said that this isn't rocket scientist. This isn't something like, that you're doing something that's really that involved. You're not building a bomb. You're not doing, you're coaching a football team. But my problem is you also said you do not have a candidate within your organization that you could have promoted from within. You have 2 former head coaches are on your staff, and you're saying that they're not qualified. Okay, I get that. But now, as a player under any of those coaches, how do you feel if your owner is saying your coach isn't good enough to be our head coach? Should you even be my coach? Should you even be coaching me then?
Right. So, what message does it send?
For me, I see it more, they may have needed, like, I remember Frank was like our first quarterback. I know he's done a great job with the Colts until this season when he decided to follow Matt Rule's lead and do quarterback carousel. And he, so I feel like there was something in that locker room that needed changing from all accounts. And Carrie can attest to this. Jeff Saturday, when he's an analyst, he is the most positive analyst out there. People I know who've known him, he's made a lasting impact. So maybe he's being brought in, not maybe for the head coach acumen, more for the cultural change that needs to take place in the locker room, the motivational leader aspect, the positivity, the realistic positivity that needs to happen.
We don't know what's been going on in there
by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying, what if the Colts really need that boost, that extra oomph of positivity? And you guys know me, especially Megan.
I get that. And I know you do want the positivity, and I know the direction that you're going with it, but I still think that it just leaves so many questions out there. Like, just, do you trust? Obviously, you don't trust your coaching staff. And I will say this, because I don't know if I don't want Dan Quinn to be my head coach probably, but I love him as my defensive coordinator. And so I can kind of understand that sentiment to a degree, but I trust Dan Quinn to get me through the end of a season. If it's week 10, you can finish up the season for me while we figure out this problem. Like, so to me, I think it's almost more of a diss of like, we don't even trust y'all to handle 9 games.
Right.
But we don't know. you don't know what was going on the inside. We don't.
If this is your guy for the future, then I understand the move. Then you believe in him that much. There's something behind the door, behind the scenes that we don't understand. But as just an interim, I think this has a lot of problems about your coaching staff.
And the other thing that brings is they were talking about it is, and is it Isram, the owner of, I'm saying it wrong, and I know I am. The owner of the Colts said has notoriously been able to bring people from the outside and build them up and make them extremely successful in the position he puts them in. Right. The big thing that they were throwing flags up, not against Saturday, but against the situation in general, was the skin color. Is if you can do that for different white men, then you should, or white skin, then you should be able to do it for Black people as well. And I mean, the African American, because, they were like, I don't want to necessarily go in and build myself from the bottom up and start off as, the coach of the footballs and have to work my way up. I want someone to have the same kind of faith in me and not look at my skin color, but look at me and bring me in. So it brings several different things. And I hope for Saturday's benefit that it isn't going to implode and blow up on him, because like I said, he's the one I like to watch. He's the one that can bring calm to a situation. And I hope
I like him. I like him. This isn't a dig towards
no, absolutely really. Not.
It's more of a dig to the front office of the Colts and the owner. I think even more than the coaching staff. I think that just shows a disconnect between the coaching staff and your front office right there. And because I don't think anything bad of Gus Bradley. Like, I think he's an excellent defensive coordinator. I mean, their defense has been what's carried them to us thinking that they would possibly win the division in the last 5 years or so. So, and that's while he's been there as their defensive coordinator. So I think this just shows what a mess the whole organization is. And we heard a couple weeks ago that their owner was in the news about comments about what was going on with the owners and the Roger Goodell meetings. So I think that
he was right about that, though.
He was absolutely right, but I think it just shows what a mess is going on with this organization, just kind of as a whole. Because before they started this quarterback carousel, they had somebody that was an amazing quarterback, and they just drove him into the dirt. I don't know about amazing, but definitely good and above average.
Talent, and it's a shame that he was run out of. Absolutely, yeah, that was one of the things that made me sad. Was Luck was run out of the league and even booed out of the stadium. So I mean, that his home stadium. So yeah, there's things that are not right.
Do we think Matt Ryan is back at quarterback on Sunday now?
No.
I think Matt Ryan's arm is shot this season.
I think that they're trying to start
that one right there. Yeah, that's what I think.
What?
That Matt Ryan's arm is shot.
Yeah, because he wasn't he got injured. I think at one of the last games last season, and I don't think it's healed yet.
I think they're bringing Saturday in to start a whole new rebuild.
Kind of wipe this like and I would love to see Sam Ehlinger have success, but I don't think it's in him.
No.
I mean, he had troubled times there at Texas. I mean, he was decent, but he wasn't just an outstanding quarterback for us, to be perfectly honest. He went through some personal turmoil, so I would love to see him have some success on this professional level, but I don't see the talent in him like that. I mean, he's a comparable QB too. That's what I think.
And that's where I think that's where Saturday is going to fit the mold, though, because he has something that Frank Reich hasn't had since 1995. Because last time Frank Reich was quarterback was 1995, right? So Jeff Saturday has played in the NFL more recently. He did come from Carolina. He is from a pretty decent coaching tree staff from where he's
so they're playing the Raiders for his first game, right? And he had his last comment as a ESPN analyst was that the Raiders are not a good team.
And that's coming from Jeff Saturday. He's like the most positive person in the world. I'm pretty
Just so
positive.
you know,
I'm
I
not
picked the
that
Raiders.
I love you, Bill Jones. You're a man.
Yeah.
You're a hit man.
They might have just a statement win because I mean, while I completely agree with his analysis, that it sometimes is a setup for a trap game. So we shall see what happens with that. Now we're going to kind of move over to something a little more serious and talk about the officiating, not only within the NFL, but within any of these leagues.
NHL.
Yeah, just how they are constantly becoming a part of the storyline of the sports. Like as a fan, I have to say it does get old. Now I can't imagine being in their position and doing their job. That's because that's super high pressure. You're right there in the moment. And so I definitely don't want to placate how difficult their job probably is, because I'm sure it is. But I mean, there's just some that are so egregious that you have to wonder, like, I mean, there's moments when you're just like, is this who's paying you under the table?
Right.
That there's some that are just that bad that you have to wonder.
Like, look at Angel Hernandez in the MLB. How many times has he sued the MLB? Like, the MLB would love to kick him out, but they can't. Why? Because of his union. And Angel Hernandez sucks. He knows it. We all know it. I think he sucks on purpose. I really do. I really do.
Don't get me started about baseball.
I'm sorry, Megan. But then you've also got like random calls, like last year, or no, 2 years ago, like Alonzo Ball got almost got a tech for hitting Kemba when the Bulls were playing the Celtics, and he was like, no, I'm going to please ask you to politely review the tape. So they did. That saved him from getting the tech. But when you're getting all these calls, like, you have to be consistent. Like on October 10th, I was reading when the Raiders and the Chiefs played, Carrie. One of your DEs went behind and sacked Carr, right? Good for him. But then he got a roughing the passer call. Then the Raiders did that to Patrick, no call. Right. It's inconsistent. The exact same officiating crew that called DJ Moore for taking his helmet off the field allowed Jalen Ramsey to take his helmet off on the field with no penalty. It's just, my thing is, it has to get more consistent. I feel like the XFL actually had it best. I feel like the NBA is probably better because the NBA reviews a lot more calls than any other professionals team. So I feel like it's a little more fair there. It's still kind of
even in the WNBA, like this past playoffs, like there were some games that the verdict of the game, the outcome of the game would have been changed if this call had been correct, and so
right.
That definitely gets old. And then also, like, I agree that it needs to be on the same level, even though I think it's pretty common to see stars in any league that get preferential treatment compared to others, which, do we agree, is it right? No, obviously not. We see it with LeBron every year when he gets ready for the playoffs and he doesn't want to play. I'm not knocking him. He's almost 40. If that's what he's got to do it, it doesn't particularly bother me, but rules are there, and they have rules about workload management, and especially for those fans, I think one quote that really explains it best, Kobe was talking about, his wife was like, well, why don't you take some nights off? You're injured. And he was like, but what about that one fan that saved up their whole life to go watch him play, instead of you get to the arena and LeBron sitting out, AD sitting out, like, you paid to see these stars. And then especially, like, okay, Jen, you're in a small market team, right? Like, a lot of times when you go to the Hornets games, you're not necessarily going to watch the Hornets. You're kind of watching the competition. Like, if Steph comes in,
it depends on who you are.
You're gonna watch, you know what I mean? Like, it's likely.
You're gonna choose your games to get the most bang for your buck.
When we had season
so.
tickets, we would sell our high tickets. I mean, honestly, we sold so many tickets, like it pretty much paid for our season tickets.
That's
and
funny.
we weren't overcharging. We weren't being egregious. But I mean,
I get what you're saying.
Games, like, nobody can do that.
last season, how many times did CeeDee Lamb get fined for having an untucked jersey?
Right.
And
like,
they
3.
they're not
and then we played Atlanta, and the entire team, nobody touched their jersey in, which I could care less if you tuck your jersey in.
Right.
But I mean, leave it level. Everybody's got to be held to the same standard. And so why does one player not have to follow the rules when the whole team over here doesn't tuck in their jerseys? Matt Ryan didn't have his jersey tucked in.
Right. And it's just, I mean, it's calls like that. I mean, if it was for the health and safety of them, I get it. But we're not going to see the guys rip each other's jerseys off.
Wait. They did. I mean, I'm just going to put you there. The Titans did try to undress Jones this last game. At one point, they went over and yanked his arm because his jersey was all the way up here, and it was like all crooked. And they fixed it down the field. But go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, for the most part. All right, Candy, prove me wrong again. Come on, Candy, give me your example.
But what do y'all think what needs to happen in order for that to change?
Okay, in the NFL, I think they really need it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, sometimes it's really hard, and I think in today's day and age, where there is so many cameras on for every different angle, that we as fans get to see those camera angles, that a lot of times the refs might not be standing in the correct spot or in the right. There might be someone. I mean, I literally take pictures on the field a lot of some football games, and I can't tell you how many times one of the lines judge or one of the ball guys or somebody runs right in front of me and blocks my shot. That I can't imagine, like, sometimes being some of these refs or umpires or whatever and seeing all of those, to be at every angle to catch every little thing, that we get the advantage of all the different camera angles. It's tough. It's a tough job. I do understand. Yes, there has to be more uniformity and everybody held to the same standards, but some of those calls are really tough.
Okay, so I have kind of as a teacher, the No Child Left Behind, or whatever the current initiative words are that are on the national platform to have a conformity to the education system. Okay, so the teachers, the school districts, and all these things are measured up, and they have a national thing to conform to, which is very interesting in itself. There needs to be conformity, but you cannot be so rigid that you cannot have individuals there, right? So we don't want robots running referees. We don't want that. We watch it because it's the intensity, and if what's going to happen, what's not. So you need some consistency, some conformity, but there's also that's a fine line to have to walk. Then how many calls do you want to have that can be reviewed in a football game that's already stretched to 2.5, 3 hours on TV?
Right.
How your baseball game that feels like it goes for 10 hours on TV? How long do you want them to be able to go and review and have to stop? So it's a two-edged sword there. It's like, how do you do this and keep the continuity and the viewership and the value in your product that you're putting out, which is the game. So it's a really weird situation there, I think.
Like the last 2 minutes of a basketball game, we all know how long that takes, right?
Oh, geez.
Right.
And for a casual fan, they hate it. Those of us that are really into the game, it's very strategic. To me, it reminds me a lot of baseball. Like, baseball is very strategic, and the last 2 minutes of the basketball game, it comes down to the amount of possessions that you have, free throws. Like, it's very technical. And so for me, it doesn't bother me. But for someone like, my mom necessarily, like, she's a casual fan. Like, she watches because she knows I like it,
Right.
And to her, her, it drives her insane. So like, do the casual fans, are there more casual fans than actual diehard fans? That's a question too. Like the quality of the game and which way you're going to go with it. Like, I don't know. Like you said, double-edged sword, fine line, very fine line.
I would dare say that if you have a player that doesn't request, like say in the NFL, you have somebody who never calls, like is like saying their face mask. I think if you have a player saying there's a face mask, that needs to be reviewed, because you're not going to usually just call that, or a horse collar. I say the same for the NBA and MLB, when you have certain things that are very inconsistent, and if you have a player who never requests for something to be reviewed, take notice.
Right.
Hey, Schwarber never asked for a review. He's asking us to review this. Something's off here.
That's true too.
Huh?
I said that's true too. Like Chris Paul always cries to the refs.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how serious I would take that all the time, you know?
Right. Like, I mean, if I were the refs, I'd ignore Chris Paul. But
okay, we watch Brady throw his tantrum on the field.
Oh, him too.
You know, we see that, and then when Mahomes will say something, the internet will go ape crepe over it, but because they're like, oh, he's just trying to be Brady. No, Mahomes is actually, you know, he doesn't do a lot of, hey, but he'll let you know, hey, something just happened to me. Chris Jones walked up when he sacked Carr and asked the ref, how am I supposed to sack? Tell me how, so I don't get this called against me again this game. And the ref walked off from him.
Yeah, the same thing would happen to Cam too. Like, I mean, when you have
it was awful with Cam,
you need to review it. Huh?
And then literally there were some refs that sat there and said, oh, well, because he's bigger, it's fine for him to take hits, you know, or you don't hear Big Ben complaining. So why is Cam complaining? Like, no, it's not, it wasn't right. You know, and I think we saw that especially in that matchup with the Broncos after the Super Bowl. So the first time they had to play each other after the Super Bowl, like I think we saw a lot of those that were,
I think that game really
some bad missed calls. I do too. Yeah, I absolutely do. All right. Well, we're going to move on to a happier topic. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say there are also some people that flop or make it look like something happened that really didn't happen.
Oh, that cracked me up. I was watching a basketball game the other night, and they tried to do that, and they were like, oh no. They were like, that was a flop.
Oh my, I remember the first time. Okay, so my favorite basketball player, the first basketball player I was ever in love with was Reggie Miller. And I remember the first time that I realized what drawing the foul was, but I mean, I was like 7 or 8, and it just crushed me. I was like, he lied. I remember turning to my uncle, and I was like, my player just lied. Like, he fell on the ground, and they showed in the replay that he didn't get touched at all, and I was just crushed, hurt my spirit.
Oh, poor Megan.
Right. So yeah, there are different ends of the spectrum on that, but let's go ahead and move over to a happier topic. We saw earlier at the end of last week, actually, the national women's gymnastic team actually won their 6th world championship and qualified for the Paris Games. So this makes their gold appearances in the world championship in 2003, 2007, 2011, 14, 15, 18, 19, and 22. Want to go ahead and throw the others in there too. They had a silver in 91, 94, 2006, and 2010, and then they had the bronze in 95 and 2001. So they have a constant culture of winning there, very dominant. I don't expect anything to be any different come the Paris Games, but you absolutely have to back it up, as we've seen with the women's national soccer team, that you can be knocked down a little bit. They actually lost 2 games in a row, and that was like the first time in 20 years that they actually lost that 2 games back to back. And so while they're still an excellent team, you have to back it up. And so I think we will see that again in Paris for the Olympics, but what a nice way to qualify.
And there's a great, I don't know if any of y'all have the Peacock app, but there's actually a great documentary on the women's gymnastics team. And like in the first episode, it says, the U.S. Olympic trials are actually more difficult than the Olympics.
Oh, so it's harder to make the USA team than actually.
I can
I
see that.
agree with that.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I remember how big of a deal it was when I was a little girl in the Olympic trials for like we didn't have sports 24/7, okay? So those were big sports stories back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. You know, that was before ESPN was on 17 channels 24 hours a day. So you didn't get bombarded with that, but it was always such a big and even celebrated, maybe, I don't know, but it was a focal point, and I kind of miss that in the fact.
True, because it kind of feels like the Olympics and some of those national like they don't get the same attention that they used to. I can agree with that for sure. Did either one of you ladies have anything else that you wanted to add to this one?
Not really. Just go Team USA, and I'm glad y'all can do cartwheels because I cannot.
I'm never gonna be able to do a cartwheel. Never.
Me either.
This body was not designed to have things off the ground more than
Even when I was
time.
I was just I couldn't do it. I didn't have the coordination for it. So you ladies are amazing. You ladies are amazing.
Once upon a time, I actually did.
Yay! Do it now, Candy. Do it now.
All right. Well, we will catch you back next week. Thank you guys for commenting, sharing, and participating in the show. We see you guys. Somebody from Stockton, California, watching. James Tatum. We saw Jordan Long on there. A couple other people. Appreciate y'all watching so much, and we will see you back next week.
See y'all.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.